All right, my friends, let's try implementing option number 1 inside of our application. We're going to first get started by going back over to our server action. Now, in the diagrams I was showing you, I was saying, oh yeah, we're going to pass along just the code to the server action. When we call edit snippet, we actually need 2 arguments. We need both the ID of the snippet we're trying to edit and the code that we want to update that thing's code property to be. I was only just showing code in the diagrams just to keep them a little bit more clear. So inside of our server action right here, we need to add in some arguments and say, whenever you try to call edit snippet, you must provide an ID that is a number and some code that is a string. I'm then going to update the console log to print both of those out. All right, let's now wire this thing up to our client component using the approach shown in option number 1. We'll go back over to snippet edit form. Underneath the event handler right here, I'm going to define a new function called edit snippet action. This is going to be actions.edit snippet. I'm going to call bind on it. And again, we're calling bind on this thing to kind of make a preloaded version of our server action. Kind of a version of this function that's going to be called with some arguments already assigned to it. The first argument to bind is always going to be null. Then the second one is going to be whatever the first argument is for our server action. So in this case, the second argument to bind needs to be our snippet's ID, which we can take off of our snippet prop right here. So I'll put in snippet.id. Then the third argument to it is going to be the second argument to our server action. In this case, our code. So for the third argument into bind, we'll pass our code piece of state. And that's it. So now we've got a version of our server action that's already kind of preloaded up with all the required arguments. Next, we're going to create a form underneath our editor. We'll give it an action prop of action, or not action, but edit snippet action. There we go. And then a button that says save, and a class name of p2 border rounded. Okay, time to save this and do a quick test. So back over inside my browser, I'm going to change this to, let's just add in a comment at the top that says, add some numbers. I'm going to save, flip back over, and inside of my terminal, I'm going to check for that console log. There it is right there. So I've got my ID showing up along with the updated snippet. So now all we have to do is use Prisma to access our database and update the appropriate snippet inside there. Let's take care of that back inside of our server action. All right, here's our server action. I've already imported Prisma. So we will do an await db.snippet update. And then we need to provide 2 options to update. We need to specify exactly which snippet we want to update. And we can do that by putting in where ID. And then second, we need to specify how we want to update it. So what new information we want to assign to the snippet we found. For that, we'll put in data of code. And then finally, after updating this data, we probably want to redirect the user back to the show page inside of our application. The one that's going to show just the snippet by itself. So it's this page right here. It's the one at an address or path of snippet / the ID. To redirect the user around, we can continue to use that redirect function. So we'll import redirect from next navigation. And then down here, I will redirect the user to snippets ID. I'll make sure I've got a template string right there. So I should have backticks. All right, I think that's it. Let's go ahead and give this a shot. So last test here. At the top, I'm going to add that comment back in, and I'll say adds to numbers. I'll save. After clicking on save, there's a little pause. Then I get redirected back over to the show page, and I can see my updated data right there. And if I refresh, yep, still see the updated data. Very good.